Welcome to the part 2 of the Father Christmas who robbed the bank. In a desperate bid to save his mother, Cheta made a daring decision to rob the very bank where he worked. The security officers were hot on his trail, firing shots. Cheta ran for his life as the police launched an intense manhunt. Will he escape, or will justice catch up with him? Will Nneka succeed in poisoning her husband? Sit back, hit the subscribe button and enjoy the thrilling conclusion to this action-packed story. In Donatu's luxurious mansion, trouble was brewing. Nneka had been plotting with her secret lover, Desmond, for weeks to kill her husband and run away with his money. That night, as Donatus sat in his study, sipping a glass of wine, Nneka entered with a small vial of poison hidden in her palm. She poured it into his drink while pretending to refill his glass. Donatus took a sip and immediately spat it out, the bitter taste alerting him. "What is this?" he demanded, glaring at Nneka. Panicked, she tried to feign innocence, but Donatus' suspicions were confirmed when he caught her trembling. He slapped her hard on the face and grabbed her by the arm and shouted, "Who are you working with?" Under duress, Nneka confessed, "It's Desmond. He said we could take your money and leave the country." Enraged, Donatus dragged her to his car and forced her to lead him to Desmond's house. But when they arrived, Desmond, a towering figure with muscles like a wrestler, was ready for him. The confrontation quickly turned violent. Desmond overpowered Donatus, beating him to within an inch of his life. Desmond punched the teeth out of Donatus' mouth and he fainted. Nneka took her husband's cell phone, then returned to Donatus' mansion, where they emptied his vaults of all the cash and gold, transferred all the money from his bank account through his cell phone, and they left in the dead of the night, disappearing without a trace. Days later, Donatus was discovered by Desmond's house agent, who came to give Desmond quick notice for failing to pay his rent. The house agent saw Donatus, who was panting for breath and helpless, and he rushed him to the hospital. Bruised and broken, Donatus struggled to access his bank accounts, which were controlled by Nneka. And when he did, he found out that he had no money in his account. Desperate, he turned to Cyril, his brother, for help. Cyril arrived at the hospital with Christy, his wife, but Donatus' pleas for help fell on deaf ears. Christy, ever manipulative, pulled Cyril aside and said, "Why should we help him? He wouldn't do the same for you. Besides, we have our own expenses." Donatus overheard their whispered conversation and felt a wave of betrayal. His own brother had abandoned him in his time of need, but he also recalled how he, Donatus, had snubbed Cheta, his younger brother, whenever Cheta begs him to send money for their mom's medical bill. Donatus felt like karma was punishing him. At Greenbank, where Cheta worked, the police had launched an investigation into the bank robbery. Interviews with staff members revealed a unanimous sense of shock. "Cheta, a thief?" BC said, her voice trembling. Tears streamed down her face as she added, "He's a good boy. I don't understand." The manhunt for Cheta intensified as the story of the Santa robber spread. But for now, Cheta was safely en route to the village, his mind focused solely on saving his mother. The night was heavy with silence when Cheta arrived at the village. He moved like a shadow, his steps cautious, his breathing measured. The distant croak of frogs and the occasional rustle of leaves under the harmattan breeze were his only companions. By the time he reached the old family compound, the moon hung low, casting a silvery glow on the familiar walls he once called home. Cheta knelt by the ancient guava tree at the far corner of the compound, where the earth was soft and loose, with Trembling hands, he unearthed a small hole and buried a metal pot filled with some of the money he had stolen from the bank. He covered it swiftly, tamping the earth down as if to bury not just the money, but the weight of his sins. Then he made his way to Onyeka's room. "Onyeka," Cheta whispered, shaking his elder brother awake. Startled, Onyeka sat up, his eyes wide with fear, until they landed on Cheta. "Cheta, what are you doing here?" Onyeka echoed. Cheta silenced him with a wave of his hand and said, "I don't have much time. Listen carefully. There is money buried under the guava tree. Use it to care for Mama, pay for her treatment, feed her, and keep her safe. Tell no one you saw me, not even the neighbors. Do you hear me?" Onyeka nodded, his voice trembling. "Cheta, where will you go?" "I don't know," Cheta replied, his voice heavy with sorrow. Then he said, "But I can't stay here. Not now, not like this." Cheta glanced at his sleeping mother through the cracked door and whispered, "Take care of her. Promise me." "I promise," Onyeka said, with tears rolling down his cheeks. With a final glance at the home he might never see again, Cheta slipped into the night, leaving Onyeka to wrestle with the weight of his brother's sacrifice. Donatus spent weeks in the hospital, his body battered and his spirit broken. The NGO humanitarian foundation that eventually paid his medical bills came as a small mercy, but it did little to ease his guilt. Each passing day, the memory of his cruelty towards Cheta, his younger brother, and their mother haunted him. One evening, as he sat alone in his lonely mansion, flipping through channels on the TV, his heart sank when he saw Cheta's face on the news. "Wanted, armed robbery suspect on the run." Tears streamed down Donatus' face. "What have I done?" he whispered. The weight of his selfishness crushed him. He resolved that if ever he got out of the financial mess his wife and her lover, Desmond, had put him in, he would make amends. But deep down, he feared it was already too late. The car sped down the winding road, music blasting from the stereo as Nneka and Desmond laughed and celebrated their ill-gotten wealth. Desmond's hands gripped the wheel tightly, but his confidence betrayed his inexperience with high speeds. "Calabar, here we come," Nneka shouted, tossing her head back in laughter. Nneka and her muscular lover, Desmond, had decided to run away from Lagos and head over to Calabar and enjoy the money they stole from Donatus. But fate had other plans. As they rounded a sharp bend with speed, Desmond's eyes widened in horror at the sight of an oncoming truck. The screeching of tires and the deafening crash shattered the night. When the dust settled, Nneka lay lifeless, her once radiant face marred by tragedy. Desmond survived, but was left paralyzed from the waist down, confined to a wheelchair for life. The money they had stolen now seemed like a curse, mocking them from the crumpled wreckage of the car. Cyril, while brushing his teeth one morning, noticed something sticking out of the back of the toilet mirror. He reached out for it and stared at the small pack of medical pills he had found behind the bathroom mirror. His hands trembled as he turned it over, reading the label, "Emergency Contraceptive Pills." He couldn't believe it. For years, he had longed for children, hoping to break the jinx of childlessness in their family. And now, this. When he confronted Christy, her initial denial crumbled under his piercing gaze. Yes, I have been taking them," she stammered, tears streaming down her face. "But Cyril, it's not what you think. I just wanted you to help my father finish his building and set up my brother's business before we start having our own children." Cyril's heart sank, and he said, "So your father and brother comes before me, before our family. Christy, you are so heartless." Christy's silence spoke volumes. With a heavy heart, Cyril made the decision, and he said, "Pack your things. Since your father and your brother are your priority, go and live with them. You are no longer my wife." "Cyril, please forgive me. Please," Christy cried. Her pleas and tears did nothing to change his mind. The divorce was swift and final, leaving Cyril to reflect on his choices and the mess their family had become. Months later, Cyril and Donatus returned to the village. Humbled and filled with regret, they found Onyeka tending to their mother, who was now in better health, thanks to the money Cheta had left behind. Onyeka had also used the remaining funds to start a small transportation business, driving a minibus from Onitsha to Nnewi. When Onyeka saw his brothers standing awkwardly in front of the house, his anger boiled over. "What are you two doing here?" he barked, his voice laced with years of pent-up resentment. Their mother tried to calm him down, but Onyeka was livid, and he said, "You abandoned us. You let Cheta, a 25-year-old boy, do the unthinkable just to save this family. And now you show up as if nothing happened." Donatus and Cyril fell to their knees, tears streaming down their faces as they begged for forgiveness. Their mother joined in, pleading with Onyeka to let go of the past. Onyeka's voice cracked, and he cried, "I will forgive you, but what about Cheta? Where is he? My little brother, who paid the ultimate sacrifice. Where is he?" They all wept, their hearts heavy with the pain of Cheta's absence. 5 years passed. Life moved on, but Cheta's absence was a wound that never healed. One evening, their mother was in the kitchen, humming as she prepared dinner. She nearly dropped the pot of soup when a familiar voice called out from behind. "Mama, I hope you put enough pepper. You know I like pepper." She spun around, and there he was, Cheta, older and wiser, but unmistakably her son. She ran to him, enveloping him in a tight embrace as tears streamed down her face. "Cheta, my son, my son." "Shh, Mama," he whispered, holding her close. "Don't shout. I don't have much time." He explained that he had traveled abroad, worked hard, and made enough money to repay the bank with interest. And he said, "I have come to make things right. My lawyer says I might get a lighter prison sentence if I turn myself in. I am ready to face the consequences of my actions." His mother cried as he spoke, but Cheta held her firmly. "Mama, in this life, for every action, there is a reaction. We must be willing to face the consequences of our choice. I made a choice to rob the bank to save your life, and I will never regret it." And Cheta embraced his mother with tears in his eyes. This tale is to remind us of the unbreakable bonds of family in the African setting. In our culture, family is not just a word. It is the essence of who we are. It is encompassing, a sanctuary of love and responsibility that transcends personal desires and ambitions. Never forget to care for your parents, for they are the roots that anchor the tree of your existence. Marriage or success should not eclipse the sacred duty to honor and uplift the family you are born into. Remember, no family is perfect, but family is pivotal. Family is foundational, and above all, family is love. The kind of love that endures storms, forgives mistakes, and celebrates unity. Let us hold these truths close to our hearts, for in them lies the strength of our humanity.